Welcome to Running is Bullshit. I'm Stuart.
And I'm Amy, and you're listening to the podcast that loves to hate running. On this episode, we're embracing that summer lull, exploring the Midlands, some classic falling over, and find out why Stu ended up in a medical tent in Paris at 1 a.m.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, that's just the audio equivalent of clickbait. Of course, he was fine. We're just pretending to build a bit of a suspense.
Yeah, I had to kind of throw that in there at some point because it is quite funny. Yeah, all that to come. But first of all, I bought some running shoes from Vinted because that's apparently what everyone does now. Everyone buys things from Vinted. And I don't really understand Vinted. I mean, I understand it, the concept of it, but I'm like, it's just eBay. And I don't understand why it's a cool thing to do and everyone's doing it when it's just been on eBay. Like, my ex used to do this 20 years ago, buy clothes on eBay. And now everyone's like, oh, Vinted, you could buy clothes on Vinted. I'm like, I don't understand why it's there.
Is it somebody's used shoes then? Somebody's smelly old trainers?
Yeah, I think they said they only did like 30k in them.
Okay, that's not too bad.
And they're like half price. They were a pair of Saucony Ride 17s if you're interested. God knows why you would be. They're about half the price that they were, new. So why not?
Yeah, I suppose somebody's already worn them in a bit for you. You can wear them on race day and you'll be fine.
Exactly. I was thinking of just going straight into the marathon, brand new shoes, but probably thought that wasn't a good idea. But it's just generally, I don't understand. There's been like loads of like used clothes websites and they're all just exactly the same as eBay, and I don't really understand why they exist and how they're successful when eBay's just there already. But that's just because I'm old, I think.
Yeah.
Do young people don't use eBay, do they?
Well, it's all apps, isn't it? So Vinted is like an app, isn't it?
It's just my age, that's all it is.
Quick catch up on the last episode. We had a great, possibly one of the greatest submissions for medal alternatives from Emma Foy, who ran in Spain and was given a packet of cured tuna instead of a medal, and it was fed to her aunt's cat. That is disgusting. A packet as well. Was it not a tin? Was it not in a tin either? Was it like a
like plastic vacuum pack?
Like cured, like as in like it's been cured,
We're both looking at each other, oh shit, I don't know what that means. Like dried and there's something added to it, I don't know. Yeah, but a little packet of tuna. That's definitely different.
I mean, if you're Spanish and from that area of like Europe, maybe that's a nice little snack after you've done a hot race. I don't know, some fish.
By the time you get home, it might be a bit nasty, but
yeah.
I don't even like tuna. I think that's better than a medal because at least you can eat it.
I'm a big fan. Obviously I don't eat fish, but like I'm a big fan of something edible. Yeah, instead of a medal, something nice, high quality edible, not just free packet crisps.
Yeah, and it's a nice local thing as well. So that's good. Locally caught, I assume, and cured. That's a good thing to have. Why not? Other great alternatives to medals you've had. We do want to hear them, even if they're not quite as good as a packet of cured tuna. I've got a little update to the one of the stories I gave last time. It's been ages since we've done this, so it feels like we're a little bit out of practice, but I'll try and remember what we're going through. I talked about a race I did, a midweek race, and I think I forgot to say a little bit, part of that, stomach was a little bit off because of all this sauerkraut that I'd eaten. I had a gel with me, I was going to have the gel, but I decided against it because it felt a little bit risky. Yeah, I was doing some risky farts during that race. Turned out to be fine. This continued for the next few days, as it turned out. And by the time I got to Sunday, I went to do a long run. Now, I got up early, had my breakfast, did my business, thought I was done. When you get up early, you need to leave a little extra time, go to the toilet to make sure everything's done, especially before a long run. And I got out. I was maybe 10, 12k in. This is going to be about a 20-mile run. So I was like 6-7 miles in. Turned out I had not finished what I'd started that morning. I thought I would be okay, because sometimes you think, sometimes no, I think I'll be okay. And I kept going. But this one, I was basically in the countryside between Newport and Cardiff. And I went, stupidly, I went past miles and miles of bushes, places I could have gone. Like if I need to, I did not want a wild poo. That was really the main thing here. I did not want to have a wild poo. I know it would be a funny story. Yeah. No one wants a wild poo. You think no, it's fine. I'll be fine. I can get somewhere. There'll be something down the road. I can suck it back in. It'll be fine. You don't want a wild poo. You only do if you really have to. I was quite determined not to. Unfortunately, by the time I ran out of countryside and got into the outskirts of Cardiff, which is quite built up quite quickly into housing estates, that's when it got quite urgent. And so, but where I was, right at the edge of Cardiff, it's just a housing estate. There's nothing else. There is houses, and it's a Sunday morning, so if there was stuff, it's not open. And by this point, it was really quite urgent, and I was really genuinely very worried about my shorts and whether or not I would be arrested. It was genuinely getting to the point where I was running along, and I thought, if like someone comes out of their front door close to me, I may well have to just stop them and be like, "I'm so sorry, can I use your toilet, please?" It was getting that's the desperation point I was getting to.
Oh,
Am I going to have to ask someone? I'm like looking at shops as they go past. I'm like, no, they're not going to have a toilet. Looking at little places. I was thinking like, is there a church open? I'm like, can I claim sanctuary or something like that? I'm not sure if this would be, you're supposed to be good people. Let me in.
Like an exorcism.
Yeah, I might need it after that. I think this is all going through my head. This was genuinely got, as I said, quite urgent. I knew the way I was heading. I was heading towards one of these awful big dual carriageways into Cardiff, and I knew there was like Starbucks and McDonald's and places like that would be open. So that was my only hope, but they were still a couple of miles away. At this point, it's maybe 15 or 16 miles in. I have never run so quick after 15 miles in my entire life. It was just, I think at some point, I think I had like music on. I think I turned it off because I needed to run. I needed to concentrate. I was like checking my phone. But the problem is I was like, I roughly knew where I was, but I wasn't exactly sure of the direction. So I had to look. But occasionally I would stop to look at my phone, to look at directions. And that would make things worse. Like actually walking for some reason made it worse. And I was like, oh no, I need to run.
Like a cartoon or something.
Oh, it was, oh my God, I was quite frantic by the end. Like, in 25 years, I have never been as excited to see a McDonald's. It's, that childlike wonder was, it was just there because I knew McDonald's there open. It was right kind of close. It was like one of the first things on this road. I knew it'd be open. I did think about, well, I could probably buy something, but I just went straight in there. My God, the relief of finding that toilet, and the toilet was open and it was fine, and the just sheer relief just to get that done there and not have to go in a bush or under a tree or just someone's driveway, which it could well have been at many points. I don't know what happened there, and then came out of McDonald's, didn't buy anything, so I thought it's 8 a.m, they don't really give a shit if I'm there or not. And then continued on my way. But at that point, obviously, just absolutely knackered because I just run so fast for those past 2 or 3 miles. As I said, never run so fast in the middle of a long run. Great bit of workout. I mean, if anyone wants to do some training, I can very much recommend running like 12, 13 miles and then doing a hard 5K.
It gives a whole new meaning to fartlek, doesn't it?
It was a hell of a fartlek. There were no risky farts on that. I was not risking a thing because, that wouldn't have been a risky. That would have just been a disaster. I managed to get to where I was going. It was my club handicap race. I told a lot of people about this, obviously. They'd be like, oh, how is he run? I'd be like, nearly shat myself. And then you can see him looking at me like, I didn't actually ask. Oh, God. I'm like, well, you asked me how my run was. Yeah. That's the predominant theme of my run. For at least half of it was me worrying about shitting myself. I possibly should have just gone in the bushes.
Yeah.
I feel like I really should have just been brave. There was plenty of opportunities. I could have been quite hidden. I should have just been brave and gone for it. I didn't bring my poo trowel, unfortunately. But
that feeling when you do find a toilet, if you need a wee or a poo, finally, it's euphoric. It's kind of worth it. Yeah. And it's just like to know, you don't have, because again, it's all I thought about for an hour. It's like thinking of nothing else but where I can go. I'm sorry if I've lingered on this a little bit too long, everyone, but this was a very big part of my week that week, so I felt I needed to get it all out there. Still haven't wild pooed. I'm not sure if I'm missing out or not. No, because then you'd also have to run to Cardiff with one sock, so... No, I had tissues with me. I'm prepared for these things. I've got my backpack, I've got my first aid kit, I've got my tissues in there. I've always got these things, so I should have just gone for it, frankly. Never mind. Anyway, we've partnered with Bird and Plenty. What a segue. Ooh. If you fancy, in the morning getting things going a bit quicker. A little cup of the brown stuff just to... maybe drink some tea. Maybe drink some tea. Yeah, sorry, Bird and Blend. We've partnered with Bird and Blend Tea, which means we'll tell you what tea we're drinking. If you like the sound of that, you can go to runningisbs.com/tea. click on the links and buy some tea if you want to. What are you drinking, Stuart?
You got to do it in the morning. Get things moving. I don't know what I had that morning. Clearly, it was not enough. I just got a batch of stuff in again recently, so I'm back on the chocolate digestive. I've just opened the packet. I did that thing, opening the packet. Yeah. Oh, it's a good smell. Good huff. So I've just finished that in my little bird and blend teapot thing. Lovely bit of chocolate digestive. And I'll tell you what. And as I reached into the cupboard to get this, I've got a box of Yorkshire tea, toast and jam. It was bought for me. I didn't buy it. Absolute bullshit of a tea. Awful. It just tastes of burnt toast and kind of nothing else. There's no fruit in there. I'm not getting butteriness. I'm just getting a torrent of a horrible burnt flavour. I know everyone wangs on about Yorkshire tea. They love Yorkshire tea. Don't bother. I mean, if you've had that and you think, oh, I don't really like flavoured teas, have some bird and blend. Have some proper flavoured tea. And you probably will.
And that does sound mean, because like at least with Bird and Blend, when they've got the biscuits, like biscuits is something you dip into tea. Like I don't want the idea of the vision of soggy bread, soggy toast in my head when I'm drinking my tea.
Could be alright, like a little smokiness, a lot buttery and like strawberry. Could it be okay? There's probably similar ones in Bird and Blend like that, but it just the Yorkshire tea one is absolute garbage. So don't worry about that. Amy, what have you had?
I have raspberry ripple matcha latte today. I made myself. So I love.
So fancy.
The raspberry ripple matcha is amazing. I really recommend it. It does taste like raspberry. The thing is with matcha, sometimes the matcha taste can be a bit overpowering. But this one, you can really taste the raspberry. It's really sweet. It's kind of a bit creamy as well. So yeah, it's a really, really nice one. Always recommend that one.
Fancy. Yeah, just check out our website. Get yourself some tea if you want. Amy, what have you been up to?
So, I've been somewhere. I've been on a trip to Leicestershire.
Did you nearly shit yourself?
No, I didn't. Oh. I kind of need to shit every run. I just sort of man up and get on with it. You know, I don't make a big song and dance about it. You know? Right. I went to Leicestershire this past weekend to visit family. I'm from Leicester originally, so yeah. So
you don't need to be quite so defensive about it.
I know. So I'm kind of familiar with the area. But I did some of the National Forest Way, which I'm not sure whether it's new or not, whether it's just been sort of established. I'm not really sure. But yeah, it's I didn't do all of it, obviously, but I was sort of where we were staying was on this National Forest Way. So I did some of it. The whole thing's about 75 miles long. There's no FKTs yet, so if anyone fancies going out and getting that FKT, it might be a nice one. So yeah, so one morning I went out on the National Forest Way. I went eastwards towards Bradgate Park. If you're from Leicester, you probably know about Bradgate Park, which is an amazing, massive medieval deer park. Took Pippin with me, which wasn't the best idea. Take a like sort of a hound to a deer park. And I always run really early in the morning, so we were there really early, and so there was loads of deer around. It was actually really amazing. We got really close to some of the deer, not like intending to get close, like as in the path went past really close to the deer. And because at the beginning of the run, Pippin was okay. She was a bit frantic, but she was not sort of barking. So we managed to go past some deer. It was really lovely. You got to see some little ones and stuff, the babies and things like that. So that was amazing. And then towards the end, I think Pippin's tolerance for deer was running out. So we came. Again, it's really early in the morning, so it's really quiet. There's a few people out walking, but not many people. We came around this corner, and there must have been about 50 deer in the path, just sort of stood there, sat around. And Pippin just lost her fucking mind. Like proper hound bailing, and it was echoing everywhere, and these deer all just like shot off in a massive herd. Like Pippin, just to say as well, Pippin's on a lead. Like Pippin would not. You can't have dogs off the lead there anyway, but even if you could, Pippin would not be off the lead in a deer park. No fucking way. She shouldn't go off the lead much anymore anyway, apart from in a very sterile park with no wildlife. So yeah, Pippin was on the lead, but it was kind of embarrassing because it was so loud. And I could sort of see, I was off on some trails like a bit further away from like a main path. So there's like a main concrete path that goes through the park, and there's some trails that go off from it. So I was like looking down, and I could see this concrete path where by that point a few more people were out walking, and they were sort of looking to see where the sound was coming from, and I was like, oh god, I'm really embarrassed, like I'm sort of bothering the deer and stressing them out. But
she didn't go full fencing then?
No, that's all I could think of was, well done, But yeah, she was on the
Jesus
lead.
Christ.
And I felt like shouting down, she's on the lead, it's fine, they can escape. So a massive herd of deer just like shot off. But it was a nice run. And then the next day I went westwards on the National Forest Way to a place called Thornton Reservoir, which is a really nice run. So yeah, as I was running along, I could see these signs up on the trees, and I was like, "What's that?" I thought it was just going to say something like, "Oh, there's forestry works in this area," because they had the National Forest, the Woodland Trust logo on them and stuff. So I went up and read one, and it said "Slow down" really big, and underneath it said a sparrowhawk has recently been dive bombing joggers and runners along this path. Please slow down so as not to enrage the bird of prey.
That is a choice of words, isn't
I
it?
shat myself. Like when I shared that, I like texted it to Freya when I was out running, and Freya said, she thought it said engage the bird of prey at first, and I was like, yeah, no, enrage. So it was like, so I'm on this path, and I just start walking. I'm thinking, I am not running down this path because
I'm not enraging a sparrowhawk.
Not
today.
only is it runners, it's joggers too. So even a slow run like I do is enough to enrage it. So yeah, I just started walking, but the whole way it must have been about half a mile. This path. The whole way, every time I heard a bird, and there's loads of birds and stuff, and like squirrels and rabbits in these woods, and every time I heard the leaves rustling, I'd be like, like that. But I was quite interested in what had prompted this, so when I got home, I was Googling like sparrowhawk attack and all that, and I couldn't find anything apart from something from 2020, but the signs were very new, so I thought it must have happened after this as well, because they were very, very new. Which is what really fucking scared me as well, because if it had been like an old sign that had been like weathered and you could tell it'd been there for a few years, but these look brand fucking like they've just been put up. But I posted it on Instagram, and we were actually house sitting for my uncle and my auntie. That's where we were staying while they were away. And my auntie messaged me and said, "Oh yeah, it attacked me when I was out for a run." So I was like, "Oh, okay, so cool." That must be the person that complained not complained, you don't complain about a bird, do you, but made people aware. I mean,
the choice of words is very good, because it could have been like disturb the sparrowhawk, alarm or upset. No, enrage. The sparrowhawk is enraged.
God. And you know what? It's another one of these. So when I Googled it and I found the article from 2020, which it must be, I don't know what sparrowhawks' habits are, but it's in the same woods, and the woods is big, but not absolutely massive. So I wonder if it was the same path, and it's just returning to have babies in the same area. I don't know how it works with sparrowhawks. But the picture I saw in this 2020 article was another one of those where somebody had a massive gash on their head and blood streaming down their face. I was like, Jesus Christ, it's absolutely terrifying. So that was kind of scary. So I did my lovely 2 runs, and then later that afternoon I rolled my ankle on the patio, but it's okay.
Of course you did.
I slipped down, the slabs had like a bit of a gap in them, and I properly slipped down the slab and rolled my ankle, and I've got a massive bruise on the side of my ankle, but it's okay. But I had a bit of an injury happen as well, but not out running.
Well done.
Yeah.
In a garden.
Yeah.
Amy, do you know 9.5 million trees have been planted in the last 30 years in the National Forest?
Yeah, so when I was, because I don't know about other people, but whenever I'm somewhere and I see a signpost with a trail marker and it says, "Oh, this is the so-and-so trail," I have to go home and then read up all about it.
It's nice to look it up, isn't
it? Yeah. So that's how I found out about the National Forest Way. But yeah, it's one of the biggest regeneration projects. It's either in Europe or the world, I can't remember, but it's one of the biggest regeneration projects to regenerate the national forest. Because when I was looking at the National Forest Way, it's really odd. If you go and look at it, it's a really odd trail that sort of goes up and down, up and down. If you went as the crow flies, it's probably half the distance. It's really a weird shape. And when you look, it looks like it's passing through some quite built-up areas. But it was interesting, the bits that I ran, because it's just these slithers of forest. So where I ran was in Leicestershire, around housing estates and villages. It's just these slithers of forest, but it's really interesting because you can tell it is an ancient forest. It hasn't been planted, in recently. They're very old trees, but they're very sort of small areas, if that makes sense. Yeah, I'd quite like to do some more of it. Actually, it was quite.
Well,
some quite nice
over
trails.
400 woodlands have been planted, Amy,
There we go.
and over 100 kilometres of hedgerows. I'm on the National Forest website.
Well, all the trail markers were very new, and I don't know whether it's because the trail has just been completed or whether they've just redone the markers, but they were all like very, very new.
That's always good though. Well, I'm always kind of slightly fascinated by, you run round and you see a trail marker that you've never seen before, and you can tell it's really old.
Yeah.
And you go and look it up, and there is nothing.
Yeah.
Because obviously, like, the council put it up in like 1993, and has just abandoned it because there's nothing. They didn't have a website at the time. There might have been a pamphlet about it at some point, but those have all disappeared. I see those quite a lot, and I just wonder, these kind of weird abandoned kind of paths and trails and routes that have been set up and just kind of lost forever.
Yeah.
I'm always fascinated by those. I'd love to know where they went, or who set them up and all that kind of thing. But I guess you just never know unless you just happen to know the people at the council who did it.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was nice. Like I said, I always love finding a new trail, and if I like the first day I went out, I found these trails, and I'm like, okay, that's it. Tomorrow I'm going to run the other way for a bit and like explore it. So yeah, it was
very
good
nice.
fun. How's your week? Last 2 weeks, 3 weeks been?
Well, before I get to that, I just want to say, if anyone is ever running or find themselves running a bit too fast and they know they need to slow the pace down, just think to yourself, do not enrage the sparrowhawk.
Do not enrage the sparrowhawk. You know
that
what?
That is how you remind yourself to slow down. If your pace is creeping up a bit too high, do not enrage that sparrowhawk.
It's zone 2 or like zone sparrowhawk avoidance.
Yeah. Calm sparrowhawk.
I don't think we can even call this podcast Sparrowhawks are bullshit, because I feel like that might enrage it more.
That would enrage them, to be fair. Yeah, we don't want that. No. We're broadly supportive of sparrowhawks on this podcast.
Yeah.
I like to think that people would know that.
Yes.
You are a friend of the birds, after all.
I am a friend of the birds.
That's a callback, isn't it? Wow. Not been up to too much apart from becoming an Olympian. I just need the decision now. Do I put the Olympic rings on the bicep or the chest? What do you think? They're kind of the main two areas, aren't they?
Yeah.
Calf maybe, but I'll save that for my Iron Man, obviously.
Yeah. Forehead.
So I'm thinking maybe bicep. Just when I'm on the start line, I can give that for the cameras. So that's exciting. So yeah, I am literally an Olympian now, because I ran on the Olympic course in Paris between the actual Olympic races, but unfortunately that meant running in the evening. And yes, just to give you a hint, it was as bad as I thought it would be. Basically, I had 48 and a half hours in Paris, bit of a whirlwind tour. So on the Saturday morning, we watched a little bit of the men's marathon, saw a load of guys come by. I saw basically all of them come past. That was nice. Did a bit of cheering. A few kilometres from the end. Picked up my bib from a running track, an Astro pitch, that is 200 yards from the Eiffel Tower. And I'm just looking like, there's a 6-lane track, like no grandstand, no seats, just like a leisure centre, like 200 yards, one block away from the Eiffel Tower. And we're like, can you imagine the value of that real estate? Literally must be hundreds of millions of pounds worth of land. That's a 6-lane track and an AstroTurf pitch. Absolutely bizarre, but I guess it's one of those things that's been there for so long and they could never ever get rid of it. But fantastic, but it's just, that was really, really odd. And so that was on the Saturday morning. Had to go and run Saturday evening. Now, obviously, the problem is with this, as well-intentioned as you can be, you will spend all day on your feet because you're on holiday. You're in somewhere new. You don't know where to go. You're looking for food. You're looking at, to go and do things. So that was a lot of the problem there. However, when I actually got there, it all kind of went wrong immediately from the bag drop. Bag drop was at the Louvre. On the back of a load of trucks, so it was obviously quite busy anyway. The problem was the bag drop was in front of the start line, not behind it. So to get from the bag drop to the start, you had to go through the start, which was obviously closed, so you had to go round the start line and squeeze down the sides all the way to the... I was in pen like 4 or 5. So I had to walk all the way down the pens, which were very, very long, because there was 20,000 people in them, or would have been by the end of the night. So squeezing down the side. So it was such a crush for so long. We really jammed into these little tiny, between the fence and the wall, to go over into the river. Just absolutely jammed in to walk all the way down to my pen, to get in the back of the pen, to then come down. And once I was in the pen, everyone in there was either queuing for the toilet, like the whole length of the pen. People were queuing for the toilets in the pen or just sitting on the floor because you had to be in the pen at least half an hour early. I think they closed. Mine was at 9:40. They closed the pen, I think, at 9:20 in theory. So everyone was just sitting all the way along the edge or queuing down the middle for the toilets. Amy, very exciting thing here. There were, as you might imagine, there was your standard portaloos. There were male urinals, which were just kind of everywhere in Paris. No barriers, just those like 4, you kind of circular ones with like 4 sections for you to wee in. No barriers, just you just kind of pissing around everyone. Very weird. 2 types of female urinals.
2 types?
I have never seen female urinals at a race. There were 2 different types of female urinals, which I think is very exciting.
What's a female urinal?
I mean, I didn't get up close and personal to get you the full detail. One of them was, it was kind of, this one, it was a round one again, but it was split into 3, and you'd kind of step up a couple of steps into it and then sit down. So you're still like head and shoulders out of it. So that was still a bit strange. So you can see these women, pretty much head and shoulders were kind of out, looking over the tops, looking at everyone. But there was like obviously like a little door to pull over to cover the rest of you up. But that was like so like a little kind of.
I don't think I'd be able to pee with
very
that.
very strange. I'm guessing women generally are not used to weeing in a big crowd like that, just watching thousands of people. And there was a different one which looked more like a traditional kind of stall, but like with a saloon door. You could kind of go in, and I think I could see the little graphic on the side. It was more of a squat kind of situation.
Right.
So you'd have a little squat, and there was like a little graphic line of the wee coming out. But again, I think you could probably still see over the top, and people could still see your feet. But I guess because of the saloon door situation, even if someone tried to push their way in, the doors would like knock against your knees, and so they wouldn't be able to get in. They wouldn't be able to like walk in on you because they looked quite compact in there.
That sounds feral. Were the normal toilets as well?
Yeah, there were some portaloos, but like again, the queues for those were like 100 yards long.
Yeah, because no one wants to squat in the weird like.
But it needs must. When it's getting late like that, you need to start a marathon.
Oh my god.
I think it was really interesting because I think it was really good because generally the queue for the toilets is kind of all women because they all they have is the portaloos, but there's loads of urinals for men that men can use much quicker, and there's usually more of them as well. So I thought this was a great idea. I'd like to see more of these. I think it would be a nice idea. But I imagine a few people were quite uncomfortable using those. Now, of course, I don't want to get fully like into steps because I know I did have a little kind of complaint before about people that go on about steps. But what you don't want to see is when you're sitting in your pen waiting for the marathon to start, have a look at my watch, and it already says 21,000 steps.
Oh my god, that's
at the start of a marathon.
That's like 10 miles roughly.
Yeah, I mean, it probably wasn't quite that long. I'd done quite a lot of cycling that day as well because we were using hire bikes to get around. So they probably added on quite a few steps for that. But cycling around is kind of a piece of piss anyway, and that was quite fun. I like doing that on holiday. So, finally kind of got towards the start time, and I could tell straight away, this is kind of a distinction that someone mentioned to me this week, and I really like it for something like this. This was not a race, it was an event. And I like that distinction because they were talking about fell races, and fell races very much, it's a race, not an event. You're not there to enjoy yourself. You're not there to take selfies. You're there to have a race. This was fully an event. There were light shows. There was like deafening dramatic music on the start line. There's LED screens that are like go, 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 and loads of graphics. There's no pyros, which I was kind of expecting. Perhaps, being the Olympics, they're probably a bit nervous about having things explode, which is fair enough. And ridiculous, huge crowds. Because there were 20,000 people in the marathon, 20,000 people in the 10K. Probably most of those people had support with them. Yeah. Plus all the people that were just out for the Olympics, because it was the last weekend of the Olympics in central Paris. So people were just out.
So was there the support all the way round, or was there some like dead areas like you normally get with a marathon?
There were very few dead areas. I mean, there was pretty much support the entire way around.
That's like pressure as well, isn't it?
It was crazy. It was crazy. And like, you know what, for the first 15K, I hated it. I was so grumpy because I just kind of want, I want to run. If I'm in a race, I kind of want to do a race. And I kind of had a rough idea. I wanted to run like 4 hours. I've only done one actual marathon before in 4:17. So I was like, well, I'm pretty fit now. I've probably trained a bit better than I did then. Like 4 hours is just like something to aim for. I wasn't, massively going for it, but I like to have an idea of what pace I need to run. But all the noise and the crowds, I don't know, it just made me really grumpy because I'm just like, I just don't need all this shit.
Was it busy with participants as well, or were the waves quite small?
Yeah, it was. No, they were big. They were really big. Thousands in each one, and virtually everyone had their phone out or a camera, a 360 camera or a GoPro, taking photos, geeing up the crowd, doing all the arms to the crowd, of like, let's hear, yeah,
I hate that.
All of that.
I hate that.
And it was the full ultimate hobby jogger race. It really was. It was just all of that stuff that I kind of think to my, again, in my grumpy kind of self, all that unnecessary shit that goes with races to make a race big. LED screens and music and light shows. You don't need all that shit to make a race exciting, but that's what it had.
And maybe it's because I'm like, I do mainly trail now, but I'd find that so overstimulating. I'd find there'd be too much stimulation on that race. It would give me a headache.
I just kind of wanted, I had my headphones on, my after. I just kind of wanted to put a bit of music on and just like relax a bit and just have a little bit of music on in the background, just have a run. But because you just get in, I mean, people are screaming at you the whole way.
Oh,
and it's not kind of a criticism of people supporting, which was like amazing all the way until 2:30 a.m. There were people on the sides pretty much all the way. But I've just found it's not for me. Some people kind of gain energy from that and love that. And towards the end, I did find it quite nice at times. But at the beginning, that first 15K, the first few hours, it was a lot. It was a lot. The absolute worst thing, I don't know how recent a thing this is or how common a thing this is in France. The thing that I hated the most was, hello.
Oh, God.
I mean, obviously doing that LA's, but there's a really obnoxious football supporter way of doing it. Hello.
No, LA.
No. Hello.
Oh, God.
But hear that thousands of times.
Oh, my God.
Like big groups of people all doing it at different times over hello, thousands of times throughout a night. And I was just getting a few hours in, I was hearing that, I'm like, fuck off. My God. Like ringing like proper big Swiss cowbells as well, all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, I just want to relax and just like not think and just have a little run. But it was so hard. So I got to about 15K. I was roughly on pace, possibly started to drift a little at that point. But then the hills started. And, I've been reading things today about what a difficult race this was. If anyone watched the Olympic races, they'll see it was a nasty, tough race compared to most. I think I read that like Boston and New York are considered the hardest kind of big marathons. This is almost twice as much elevation in a much shorter period as well. It was all in the middle. There was one, the first hill was 5 kilometers long.
Jesus. Where is that in Paris? Like, where were you near?
We kind of ran from central Paris all the way down to Versailles. And that was kind of the turnaround point and then back. And it was on the way back, mostly where these hills were. God. Yeah, there was a hill that was 5 kilometers long, was pretty tough. But by that point, the crowds were a bit smaller. And for me, it was like 11:30. Temperature dropped then as well, because it was, it's August in Paris, it's hot. But there's a little bit of a chill in the air by then, which was quite nice. And there was a nice long downhill from Versailles, which is kind of quite nice. And then what I found out afterwards to be called the Wall Hill. Apparently they've called it whatever in French, the Wall. And that was at 29K. And this is the hill that killed Kipchoge. He got to 32K and he DNF'd because he is a coward. So the numbers for this, a part of this hill is about 600 meters. The gradient is 10.5% for 600 meters. And like you could see it about a kilometer off as well. You could just like look down the road and you just saw it then rise and turn into the woods. And you're like, is that fucking hell? But what I really liked, that was the shittest part, but they kind of made a feature out of it, because I know I said like all the bullshit they put on this that is kind of annoying. What they did here, they kind of made some hoops over the road in like LED that were lit up with LEDs, and so it would like in rainbow colours that would like pulse up the hill and change colour. And I'm like, oh, that's quite nice actually. At this point, like way after midnight, and a shitty part of it, they've kind of made a bit of a feature of it and made a little bit of a light thing there. Again, I was much less grumpy by this point, so I didn't mind it. But you know what? When I started walking up that hill, I probably walked for about a kilometre up this hill, and that was the happiest I was in the whole race. I think it's just because I was walking. Because I was running quite hard for the first 15K, and I think by this point I was very much this is going to be a slow race. There's no way I'm going to hit the target time. I can just chill out. I can walk up a hill. I walk up a hill walking the dog all the time. So I was very happy doing that. A lot of people were trying to run it and were really trying. And I thought, well, you're going to be fucked later because there's no point running this hill. There's absolutely no point at all. And actually from there, for the next 6-7 kilometers, I was actually really happy. I was like running along perfectly, it was kind of I started to overtake people a little bit, not running particularly quick, but I just kind of settled into a pace. It was only like maybe 7-minute kilometers, which I just found to be a nice comfortable pace. I could run for ages without pushing myself, without worrying I was going to hit the wall or anything like that. So I was quite happy. Also, the thing that made me laugh mostly on this hill, I saw a couple of T-shirts. I barely saw any British club T-shirts, which is really unusual. This was such an international race. I think I saw more Brazilians than British people. I did see someone from Ponte Rodents, which is nice. I had a chat with her, and she saw someone from a Cardiff club as well at some point earlier on. So there was a couple there. So, I did chat to them. But I saw a couple of T-shirts that said Team Avon. I'm like, oh, and I went out, I think said, yeah, and I said something like to them, oh, you probably got hills bigger than this in Avon, because that's the time we were walking up there. And she looked at me, so I repeated, and then she just said something back in French. And I'm like, as it turns out, Avon is a part of France.
I thought you meant Avon, like Avon calling.
Well, that's what I thought. No, I thought it was like Avon, like an old club named after like the old county of Avon.
I was thinking pyramid schemes.
No, I don't think it was that. But as it turns out, Avon is a part of France. And she did not understand what I was saying and was just like, who the fuck are you? Why are you talking to me in English, you weirdo? Go away. And that kind of that just made me laugh because I'm just like, yeah, that's very funny. I've just annoyed a French person, so that cheers me up as well. Yeah, and then after this kind of big hill, there was kind of a couple of kilometres of quite steep downhill, which at an easy pace I thought was absolutely fine. And people were saying, oh, it's worse than the uphill, which is absolute bollocks. Downhill is never worse than an uphill, clearly. But I think, to be fair, actually, if you were like racing, if you were running hard, a couple of kilometres down that gradient probably would have been pretty hard on all your joints. So it would have been quite a tough one. But from the pace I was running at that point, I was quite happy. It's at this point, I stopped at the first aid tent. I was going to a 20k, but I kind of bottled it. But I needed to stop because I needed something for my nipples. I should have taken plasters. I know I should have done. I kept thinking about it all week. Forgot to pack them. Didn't go and buy any. By 15, 20k, it was starting to rub a little bit because it was a warm night. I was kind of finding various ways to like pull my vest down with my waistband to make, because if the vest doesn't move, it's not too bad. But then I started running downhill. It starts moving up and down, starts rubbing. So at 30k, there was a 10. I thought, right, I'm going to have to because it's going to be really bad otherwise. So I just kind of walking up to people, being like, pointing at my nipples and kind of saying, plasters, Band-Aids. I thought Band-Aid is kind of like a brand name, like an American thing they might have heard. I don't know what the French word for plaster is. So I'm like, yeah, plasters, like pointing at my nipples and rubbing them a bit, which is kind of a strange thing. So that they looked very confused. They're like, okay, come through. So they kind of eventually, I'm just like, I just kind of need something. And they're like, nipples. Yes. And so eventually they kind of cut these 2 squares of like sticky bandage. And I'm like, yeah, they're fine. I just like, I'll take those. I'll go outside. I'll do this. It's fine. Don't worry about me. You've got, there were people in there in a bad way. There's like you little kind of hollowed out shell of a man in a foil blanket and a woman literally screaming in the back of this tent. God. She must have really hurt herself or just gone completely insane. It was horrible. I'm just like, just give me the little bit of plasters. I'll sort this out. Thank you so much. The merci beaucoup. Thank you so much. And like stuck those on. Really, again, I think that's probably why I was happy for the next 5k, because nipples were absolutely fantastic after that. It was not a problem anymore. And it was after this point I started to see lots of very unwell people. And it's only my second marathon, so I don't know if that's kind of normal at this kind of point, but like some people looking pretty bad. And I think if it was the late start, and also like on the course, the food stations, there were no gels, there were no energy drinks. It was like banana, cake, some salted biscuits, I guess like kind of crackers by the look of it.
Like an ultra.
And that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, were people running marathons at a hard pace, eating a little bit of banana every now and then, thinking that would get them through? Because I'm like, I don't think that will. That doesn't sound good to me. I spoke to a runner who was in the last wave, and she said by the end, There was a 6-hour cut-off for the last wave, which is quite tough because the last wave is like, the slowest runners. So 6 hours is quite tough. But she said it was absolute carnage. She said she was just running past and there were just people vomiting all over the place. Just people. And I think it's a lot of it was people just either had been out all day for too long or people running hard, having a bit of banana, having a little bit of cake and being like, well, that's just not enough.
Yeah.
Because I was running fairly comfortably in myself. I think I had 5 gels and I bought a little packet of salt sticks, tablets. And that got me through absolutely perfectly. No problems whatsoever. But yeah, it was pretty nasty at the end. And these water and food stations were hilarious as well. The first table, every time, these were every 5K. So there was loads of them. Every time, the first table was an absolute scrum. People were like pushing and shoving, cutting in front of each other, grabbing a cup out of the volunteers' hands. But there was always 3 tables. And so by the end of, by the third table, there was quite a lot of water there. Then there was a big food table with all these weird bananas and bits of orange. And there was another 3 water tables every time. And these, like the second set of tables, literally hundreds of full cups of water that were being left because everyone had a fight at the first table.
That's very continental Europe, isn't it? If you go to one of these countries
it's just
like Spain,
savages.
France, they just don't queue. They're absolutely feral. I don't know what's wrong with them, but that doesn't surprise me.
It was every 5K. Like I was just like, is no one learning from this? Like you're fighting every time at the first table, shoving in front of each other. And then at the last table, every time, there's all of these cups available. Really strange. So I got back in kind of more into central Paris then. It started to get a bit warmer then as well, obviously with all the buildings about. But at this point, we were running in some tunnels as well. I was running alongside the river, but it dips down into these tunnels every now and then. And there's kind of these big light shows in there as well, lots of music and light shows of flashing, pulsing lights. I kind of didn't mind it by then because I was ready to finish. I was, a little bit bored. So I was okay with it then. It's just a few times you go into these tunnels and just the lighting in there is just all yellow. So everyone just all you can see is yellow and black. And it's really kind of slightly freaky and nightmarish of just the way all of the colour, no matter what everyone's wearing, it just all goes yellow. It's really kind of odd.
I'm just imagining the light tunnel from, the original Willy Wonka film with Gene Wilder, where it's like on the boat and the light are like spinning.
A little bit like that with a lot less foam. But yeah, again, I finished by about 2:20, and so there were so many people. There was so much support at the end, which was absolutely incredible. So I finished in 4 hours 43. So it's about 45 minutes slower than what I was semi-aiming for. I didn't really care. And it's really just told me that marathons are not my thing. Road marathons are not something I want to do again. I'm not going to say never because that's silly, because that's a long time. But I think it'll be a very long time before I do another one, and especially to try and run a PB. However, in that time, if I had have run the Olympic men's race, I would have finished 73rd, and I would have beaten Kipchoge, who's the greatest marathon runner of all time. So I think you have to be impressed by that.
Yeah, it's very impressive.
I can't really recommend this as an event because it was a one-off. I did have that in my head at the beginning. When I was being grumpy, I was like, no, I have to enjoy this because everyone here has entered a competition in some way to get in. People here really want to be in. No one has paid their way in to this race because there was no way to do that. So everyone here people have travelled literally from all over the world, and there would have been a lot of people disappointed by it. So I'm like, try not to be a dick about this. It is what it is. Try and enjoy it. And by the end, I was enjoying it. But again, it's just the distance and the time. It's just not for me. I'm a short distance runner. I'm very happy with that. So I did get a nice medal, and I also got a cup, a little kind of clear and plastic and orange cup for some reason. I think these are basically the cups. I think these are the same ones they were handing out at each of the water stations. And I think they just got a load of them. I thought, well, I like that because it's something I can actually use. I prefer that to a t-shirt or a medal or anything like that. So I've always got that nice little cup. By the end, it took me nearly an hour to get out of the race area, then find my bag, and then find my club mate Juliana, she'd run the 10K. That started at 11:50. So I got in the pen at 9. She had to spend nearly 3 hours waiting to start her race. And I think that would have been worse for me. I think I'd rather be running for 3 hours than waiting for 3 hours. Because she had finished her 10K, left to come and support me, which was great. But then she couldn't get back in. So then I had to come out and find her, and everything's closed. And I'm walking very, very slowly because it's 2:30 in the morning. I've just run a marathon. Then we got some hire bikes, cycled back to the Airbnb, got to bed at about 4 a.m.
Oh my god.
So what a night that was. Shout out to listener Gail Seal, who also ran the marathon, and a huge thank you to Gemma Brimble from Cardiff, who also ran the marathon and very kindly gave me a lift back from the airport, which was perfect for a debrief with someone who knew the pain I was going through, because obviously I can tell all this, but to have someone else there who'd also done it and had quite a tough time was absolutely fantastic. Her lowlights included the cobbles and the heat and humidity. Yeah, there were a few sections towards the end especially where you're running on cobble, not like really nasty kind of gnarly cobbles.
I would have been over. I would have tripped.
You don't want cobble.
No.
You don't want cobbles at that point,
No.
at any point towards the end. And yeah, it was quite hot and humid. She seemed to enjoy the thousands of people cheering at 4 a.m. I just thought it was kind of weird. I mean, I would not support... I'm sorry to the people listening, my friends, if they were running past my house at 4 a.m, I would not be able to support them. I'm sorry. I ain't doing it in Paris. Also, thank you, of course, to Juliana, who is not only the loudest woman in Europe, but also she is ideal to go to Paris with, as she speaks French. Oh. And she did all the talking in the restaurants we went to. So that's absolutely perfect. As an Englishman who cannot be bothered and is too arrogant to learn any other language, absolutely perfect. Love that again. I would have had a horrible time on my own. I'm quite sure of that. I was on my own at one point for 2 hours, and I was frankly quite pathetic. Couldn't make a decision about where to eat, just wandered around, got quite annoyed. I'm not... pathetic man, you can't be left alone on my own for long periods. So it's basically people saying, like, oh, how's the marathon? I'm like, pretty bad actually. Didn't really enjoy it. It's not really my thing. I try to enjoy it. I mean, if you're going to run around a city at night, Paris is probably the one to do it. I think it's quite nice.
And you can enjoy Paris with like a shit ton of security protecting you the whole time, not getting fucking robbed.
Yeah.
Like
so much police and army.
Yeah.
All the way round.
Only way to enjoy Paris.
Yeah, absolutely. When surrounded by thousands of army personnel.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Nice, well done.
So there we go. So hopefully I will never do a marathon again anytime soon. Oh, let's move on. You can support this podcast, and of course I have to say an extra thank you to all our patrons, because they basically paid for me to go. And so again, I'm trying to enjoy it, because I know other people have given us that money and have kind of supported us for a very long time. We are very, very appreciative of it. I know it doesn't sound like it when we sing your names, but we definitely and absolutely are. We are very, very, very thankful. New to the list this month is Steve Peake, and here is everyone who donated us money this month. Jason Spinks, Amanda Murray, Hine, Shambolic, Adult Sherry Grubbs, Lee Wood, Charlie Neverson, Julia Page, Karen Hamilton, Ian Hales, Ruth Perkins, Martin Chelsea, Steve Peake, Doms, Dawson, HP, Gregory C, Nick Genders, Matt Caffin, Mark Willis, Martin Kaplan, Larry Warren, Liz Reese, Ivor, Hugh, Victoria, Magnus, Sandra, Heinze, Catherine Fenton, Jay Howell, Carl Fleming, Matt Burrows, Kat Abigail, Hardman, Matt Gardner, Jay Vicky Robbins, Francis Howell, Rachel Bentley, Dewi, Kath Everard, Steve Robson, Matt Lees, Claire Davis, David Owen, Ian Thompson, Neil Denton, Dawn Shepherd, Maria Wicks, Gabby Thomas, Naya, Elliot Line, David Yellow, Maggie Told, Matt, Jesse Nielsen, Bernadette, McCarthy, Bill, Nicky Jones, Alice Newston, Debbie Hurley. Tony Boyle, Victoria, Dick Paul Hibbert, Ruth Kigby, Angela Foster Swales, Adam Baker, Elizabeth Shaban, Lisa Gibbon, Len Martin, Stuart Stevens, Graham Hackland, Matt Tate, Rachel Bullmore, Greg Gilmore, Andrea, Lauren, Sophie Nichols, Rich Scum, Catherine Brown, AP Taryn Milligan, Cheryl Current, Anthony Howe, Jenny Tamler, Debbie, Sophie Jacks, Andy Robbins, Kiara Evans, Victoria Cousins, Penny Simpsons, Drew Edwards, Ryan Simpson, Matt Newbury, Tony Howells, Andy Nichols, Karen Blake, Ryder, Claire Dina, Erin Shaw, Gail Seal, Raymond Quinn, Sherry Kinnison, Matt Jones, Daniel Bourne, Tom Walcott, Jonathan Carter, Spencer Aldred.
On to your messages. Don't forget to get in touch with your running bullshit on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search Running as BS and let us know why you particularly hate running this week. So after posting an extremely creepy AI video about running on the Insta, Melanie Ann was in touch to share the AI pic she made to show her actual hallucinations during her 100-mile race. I mean, it looks like a fairly cute scene of cars and camper vans made out of trees, but she says the whole wood was a junkyard to her, and junkyards are, of course, inherently creepy. She said, I knew what I was seeing wasn't real, but being awake for 2 days does something to your head. And I was all, what if they come out of the camper? What if who come out of the camper?
Yeah, I think that was the problem. She knew it wasn't there, and what if people start coming out of the camper vans? Even though the camper vans aren't real, but they might come out. And that'll be trouble. That's weird.
That is terrible. That is partly what puts me off doing a 100-miler hallucination.
Yeah, I don't need to deal with that. That's too much.
No. I think I'd only do a 100-mile if it had a very generous cut-off and there was a sleep station. And I'd have 5 hours of sleep in between.
I wonder how some people were at 5 a.m. in the morning in Paris. I'm sure they would have been having a bad time. But especially with all the light shows and the music as well. Oof.
Jesus.
Victoria Lawrence said, falling over twice in 1 week is BS. First fall was on the beach, hottest day, but thankfully nobody saw me. But I did have a full dog poo bag in one hand, which split as I fell, and I ended up with poo on my leg.
Oh, no one wants to poo on their leg.
Of all the places. She said, if that wasn't bad enough, despite being a bit bruised and probable sprained wrist. How do you get bruised on a beach? That's weird. I thought I'd head to Trail Runners midweek. Lovely 10k run, which ended up with me tripping again. Going down hard in the woods in front of 28 other runners. No. Picked myself up and carried on doing the very British, I'm fine, I'm okay, when I genuinely wasn't. Had to walk the last half a mile so I didn't cry from the pain. Mate, just have a walk. It's fine.
I hate when there's witnesses. Oh my god. I remember when I told the story before when I tripped over on the boardwalk near me, which I was always fucking tripping over on because the planks were all uneven. Council have shut it now, as they should, because it's dangerous. But I tripped over and there was somebody, literally just two people stood looking out over the water, and I tripped right in front of them, made this massive bang, got up, blood pouring down my leg. I'd properly cut open my knee, and I was like, oh, just a scratch like that. And just carried on, but it was blood was pouring down my leg. I'm like, yeah, just a scratch. Gabby Nair has been in touch, providing us with content yet again, as we can always rely on her to do. This is some marketing bullshit, and I'm already rolling my eyes before I even read it. So this is from Saucony, and it says, embrace the mythical with the triumph for Nessie sneakers from END, I'm assuming, rather than end. But I don't know, it's all in capitals. I don't know. I'm going to read the whole thing before we pack it up. From END X cross with Saucony, I assume it's like a collaboration. I don't know. Guess so. No context provided. So it reads, taking inspiration from the legend of the Loch Ness Monster, or quote-unquote Nessie, just in case you didn't know what Nessie means. These Triumph 4 sneakers are designed to reflect the blue and teal tones of the loch, using hairy suede overlays for added texture. That's gross. Co-branding is found throughout, including the tongue and heel. While it's rumoured if you look close enough, you'll find a playful graphic of Nessie hidden in the design.
A graphic of an animal that doesn't exist.
Oh, just embrace that. Firstly, embrace the mythical. What the fuck does that mean? Embrace the mythical.
What this means for people that are obviously just listening, this is a pair of Saucony trainers that are just blue and green. That's what it is. And they've put into ChatGPT, make up some inspiration for some blue and green shoes. And it's come back with this.
No one wants this shit. If I have a choice of, because I just go for the cheapest version of the shoes I like.
The brand that you've had for ages, the right size, cheapest. That is those are the things that you want. I'm sure most people, They're not reading this,
Yeah.
and that's...
And if there's a few different ones, I will choose a colourway I like if it's the same price. But whatever's cheapest, I'm going to wear because I'm wearing them to fucking run. It's not a fashion. I know for some people it is. But even if you want to have a certain colourway of a shoe, like you really want a certain colour and that's your thing, you don't need all this shit. You just, if you like blue and green, like...
And hairy suede.
Then, yeah, you'll see the shoe... I think, oh, they're cool. I like that colourway, and you buy them. You don't need there to be like embrace the mythical Nessie, blah blah blah. I don't get it. Who are they marketing this?
Yeah,
to?
who's being convinced by this? I've no idea.
I kind of get it. If they weren't for runners, like if they were just shoes, and some people, I guess, if you're into collecting shoes, and you might, oh, these are the limited edition Nessie, blah 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 blah, all that, but. Like for running shoes that have like a job to do, and maybe you want like a certain colour, fine. But what? Why do they do this for running shoes? I
just feel like they have to. It's like every season, every football team has 3 new shirts, and everyone has like a couple of paragraphs of what it evokes and what it's inspired by, and like it's the same as it was last year, but with stripes instead of checks. That's all it is every time.
But it pisses me off because tell me the functionality of the shoe. Like, what drop is it? Put that, because I have to scroll all the way down to the fucking bottom and find out what drop is. Tell me what the drop is. Tell me, like, maybe what the material's made out of without going into all the jargon. Just tell me what sort of material it is. Like, that's what I want to know. Maybe tell me a bit about the sole and what that's made up of without all the fucking jargon. Yeah. Like, just tell me...
Practical details.
How does the shoe function for running? That's all we need to know. Really embrace the mythical.
No.
What is that?
Also, we've had an amazing pitch from Facebook that we just had to share with you. Got a message from a completely random person, doesn't even follow the page. And the message said, "Hi, do you guys have a podcast? I would love to be a feature on it." So yeah, we're introducing this week. It's a new feature called People We're Not Going to Interview. Here's our first non-guest.
We're not that big a deal, are we? So if you're messaging us asking to be on... It's alarm bells are ringing. It
happens a few times. We've gone with a few. Most of them we ignore. If people are coming to us, generally because they've got something. I mean, sometimes people have got interesting stories to tell, and that's nice.
To be fair, that's a great generalisation. Because to be fair, somebody might have done something, written a book or whatever, and they want to promote that with us or share it with us because they listen to the podcast and they like it. But also, if you're not following us. That's
hey,
the
do you guys have a podcast? What do you mean? The page Running is BS podcast that you're sending a message to? Yeah, we do. Yeah. I would love to be a feature on it. About what?
I'd like to be a feature on it.
Oh, yeah, you can be.
Not just featured.
You can be a recurring guest. Yeah, we'll have you on every time. Fantastic. Yeah, thanks for all that information. Fucking
Sometimes
weirdos.
I want to say yes and just see what they say because they're probably.
Go on then. What's your idea? What would you like to talk about?
Yeah,
we'll give you 15 minutes on the next one.
It's like when we get really random brands like emailing and saying, "Oh, we promote this." We're like,
whenever we get those, I mean, obviously spam. You get them all the time on Instagram of like, "Oh, we'd love you to be brand ambassadors for this like baby wear range." And I always want to reply to them being like, "Oh, what's your favourite thing about us that you think would be the perfect? Why do you think we would be the perfect fit for your brand?" I really want to ask them that. I really should start doing that, but I feel like I just encourage more. Is the problem.
Also, you don't want me promoting your brand because that's not what I do. I mean, poor Bird and Blend, they're going to ban us soon because I'm like, don't buy this one, it's crap.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to talk up your fucking brand. I'm not going to say, oh yeah, your whatever it is amazing. Like, didn't shit myself once. Like, you know, like I'm going to say if your product makes me shit myself, I will say.
Yeah. And yeah,
if it smells like cat piss, I will say.
The weird CBD stuff or just like really kind of elite performance wear and that kind of stuff. We get these messages. I really should start replying more to them just for fun.
Bullshit, it's the bullshit, running is the
That was a very weary theme tune this time, but yeah, that's fine. A quick one to start with. The WFRA, the Welsh Fell Running Association, have had to introduce a new rule to ban playing music out loud on phones during races. Just imagine how pissed off they are that they have to put this rule in place.
Who's doing this at a fell running event though? Because they're like quite niche.
They said that they've had multiple complaints to the point where they've had to meet and said, right, guys, we need to, I didn't think we'd have to do this, but we have to put a rule in place to tell people they are not allowed to play music out loud during a race. They must have been furious about this.
I just can't understand somebody at a fell race doing that. I get sometimes you get those at like city marathons and stuff like that, and it's really annoying. No one wants to listen to your music, bro. Just put your headphones on.
No one
but
does.
yeah, I just can't imagine it at a fell race.
So bizarre, and yeah, they must have just been so pissed off with this, and that's why it's very, very funny. But
Yes.
yeah, good rule, well done. Stupid that it's necessary. Sorry about that.
Also got a story from the Olympics about the Team GB runner Rose Harvey, who finished the marathon despite breaking her leg. Oh, God. Yeah, so she finished in under 3 hours despite sustaining a broken leg in the race. Apparently she battled through the agony to finish 78th in a time of 2:51.03 in 24-degree heat as well. So not only has she broken her leg, like it was pretty hot.
I mean, I think it was a stress fracture.
Yeah,
rather than a broken leg.
Yeah.
So it's not like a fully, like, bone wasn't sticking out or
No,
anything.
of course the media like to say like a broken leg to make it
Broken
sound
leg is, it's a better headline, to be fair.
Yeah, of course. So she said it became clear to her from about 2 miles into the race that her hip, which had begun feeling tight 3 weeks previously, was going to be really pretty painful. Like only 2 miles in, that's not good. So she spoke to BBC News and said it was really tough. The hills didn't help at all. The downhills were just agony, and it just got worse and worse. At the halfway mark, I knew it was going to be incredibly painful. I mean, I sort of get
Why did you finish?
I mean, I sort of get it, because that might be her only... I'm not making judgments here. I don't know. I don't really know much about her, to be fair.
No.
But that might be her only shot at the Olympics. I don't know. So maybe she just wants to finish to be an Olympian.
But I think if you're on the start line, if you're selected, you're on the start
Yeah.
line, I think you can call yourself an Olympian.
I would say so. Like, I know there's been debate about this, but yeah, if you're on the... Because even people who don't qualify in their heats for, like, the shorter running stuff and the swimming and stuff like that, they're still Olympians, even if they haven't qualified in their heat. So I feel like if you're in contention for it, and you're at the Olympics, you've been selected, that shows you're one of the best in the world already,
But, like, to say the downhills were agony and it got worse and worse, is that worth it? Because, like, a stress fracture, she's run on a stress fracture for miles and miles.
Yeah.
She's finished 78th, I think, which was third last, and in 2:51, which for her is a crap time. I know for most of us, it's not what... She's run 2:22 this year.
Yeah.
So, like, she's run the equivalent. That was basically the same pace as the winner in that. But she ran it in 2:51, which is a crap time for her. She finished basically last. And I just think, for what? And again, I don't want to judge her because I don't know her too much, but the problem I have with it, this has been, the way I put this on Instagram, it's being framed in most places as a good story. It's like, she overcame the odds. She battled through and she did it despite everything. I'm like, no, this is not the message we should give people. We should not celebrate people injuring themselves for no benefit.
No, and I was just thinking about what I said then about it might be her only Olympics. I don't know how old she is, but most people can enter the marathon until they're quite a bit older, because marathon running, there's not like, as soon as you get to 30 you can't do it anymore, so she's probably got another Olympics in her at least.
If you've run a marathon on a broken leg, could be your last marathon.
Exactly.
I mean, this could literally end your career. I know she's quite a recent runner, I think, from what I've read about her, but like this could end your career. Like this, she could do herself such damage and never quite recover. And never quite get to that level again because she's damaged it so much. And it's just not a message I think people should be given of just like, if you hurt yourself during a marathon or an ultra, you just grit your teeth and carry on.
No.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
It's dangerous
you need to protect yourself because if she'd have got this in the last few miles, she battled on and she won it, that's perhaps a different thing because she's won the Olympics. That's possibly worth it, or at least arguable. To finish last in a time that you're not proud of, that can't be worth it.
It's to be in agony the whole way around. Like you say, if it's last few miles, it is a bit different. But to run on that for basically like almost 3 hours,
when you knew weeks and weeks before it was bad, and knew going into it would be bad. Yeah. Oh, come on.
That's the thing, like when people say, the determination, they overcame things, like certain things can be overcome. Like if you're mentally struggling with something, like that can be overcome in a lot of cases. But if there's something physically wrong, if you've got a stress fracture, whatever it might be, like don't try and overcome that. Stop.
I mean, perhaps hypocritically, I have run with minor injuries for the last couple of years, frankly, but I've never been in agony over them. I'm in some discomfort after the run usually, but that's kind of manageable. During the run, it's generally fine. If I was in agony, I feel quite sure I would stop because it's not worth it. What am I gaining from it?
Yeah.
And so, please, people, if you're in agony and you're running, unless you're going to win the Olympics, just don't bother. Come on. Think about the long term. Well, we talked about the next Olympics, perhaps in the next Olympics. Some people talk about, should trail running be included? So this year, there was exactly 100 years since running off-road was an official discipline at the Olympics, when cross-country running was the last event of its kind at the Paris 1924 Games. So a 10-year plan has been initiated by the Trail Running Association of Queensland to have trail running included at the 2032 Games in Brisbane. Kylian Jornet and Remy Bonnet have mixed views on whether inclusion at the Olympics would be a good thing for trail running. Jornet said, "There's also talk about whether trail running might go to the Olympics or become more standardised. I hope there will still be room for everyone, that we keep races that embrace the wild side of trail running, where exploration and discovery are important, alongside races that focus more on performance while maintaining a close connection with nature." Which I think is fair enough. And just asking there, should trail running be at the Olympics? I think it would be absolutely fantastic to see proper cross-country. So like cross-country with like ditches and things to jump over. Not like a full-on obstacle race, but like proper cross-country running. Because I know like American cross-country running tends to be quite tame on very kind of flat grass, no real obstacles. And then you've got British and European trail running, which is a lot more generally very muddy, trees to jump over, little ditches and hills and things like that. I would love to see something like that at the Olympics because it's such a huge sport. Trail running is a massive sport. And to see it at its very best, because like, who are the best trail runners in the world? There's a trail running world championship, but who knows about it?
I think that some people in this debate are getting a bit confused between ultra running and trail, like as in like the cross country style shorter distances. So there was a lot of debate about, you know, well, that's going to make everything really formalized and blah 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 blah. And it's like, well, cross country is quite formalized already. There's a set of standards. There's, you know, committees and all that sort of thing. I think it'd be quite. I mean, I don't know. I'm not in the world of cross country, but from what I've observed, surely that would be quite easy to bring into the Olympics side of things. Like, there's already like world cross country championships and stuff that are happening and things like that. I think ultra running, I don't think that's even on the table. That's not what they're campaigning for. But I think I think that's where people are getting a bit confused. Like, of course, ultra running, there's a different sort of spirit around that, and that's a bit different. But I feel like cross country, that could easily be part of the Olympics.
If you watch like cross country mountain biking at the Olympics, it's quite good. I mean, I think it's too many laps. You know, when they spend an hour and a half, it gets a little bit boring. But something like that, basically, you could use the cross country course for mountain biking for running. That would be great. That you know, that would work on its own. Just those kind of really tough hills and obstacles and things would be great fun to watch. There's also, for the Commonwealth Games, the next Commonwealth Games, there's a big push for orienteering as well. And if you haven't seen that, it is worth watching because they do orienteering over really short distances, like 3 or 4 kilometers. And they go hard at that. It's so good to watch. And they do it in like city centres, town centres and things like that. It's very kind of urban. But if you watch some of the videos of that, I saw one the other week, and there was 4 women come in for a sprint finish in like a proper mad sprint finish, properly elbow to elbow with like their maps in their hands. That is that would be brilliant to watch. I would really, really love to see that as well. And it's the same kind of thing for trail running. Because again, these are, you know, this is a lot more relatable sport than a lot of other sports in the Olympics. I think they'd be really, really popular.
I think it'd be more fun to watch for people as well, you know, than some of the other stuff perhaps. But yeah, I'm quite surprised. Because I was thinking about it when I saw mountain biking. I don't know whether it was included in the last one, but I watched it this time. But yeah, I was thinking, it would make a lot of sense for trail running, call it cross country, call it trail running, whatever you want to call it, to be included. Like it just makes sense, I feel. And I know what people are saying, like, oh, what about the grassroots of the sport? But that's always the case with with most sports. There's like different layers to it, you know. There's different sort of.
But wouldn't that be perfect to watch it at the Olympics and then to go and do it?
Exactly.
It's not like sailing or archery where you need equipment, you need, you know, to join a club, you need specialist knowledge and skills. You can just go out to a wood and run, you know.
Yeah, and I think
really
it's
relatable.
And I think it's awesome as well that people who dedicate themselves to trail running, to cross country, would be able to have the opportunity to compete in the Olympics, because it is a very particular discipline. You know, you need to really build your strength in those areas in ways that don't necessarily...
Yeah, it'd be a different crowd, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. It's a different training, all those sorts of things. So I think it would be brilliant for people who are in that world to be able to compete at like what's basically the highest level, you know? So I think it should be included. I don't see why that campaign shouldn't be successful if they're thinking for Brisbane 2032. I mean, they're already getting rid of bloody, what was it, breakdancing or whatever it was.
What a terrible shame that'll be.
They're getting rid of that, aren't they? They only came in for one Olympics and it's heading off again. So I can't see a reason why not.
I mean, they're putting cricket in the Olympics, for God's sake.
God, yeah. And I think for next year, maybe I'm wrong here, but I heard for the one in LA, it's going to, next Olympics, there's going to be baseball included and another American football,
flag football.
Flag football, yeah.
Which isn't even a real sport.
No, I think the Americans just going to dominate that, aren't they?
Ludicrous.
I mean, maybe the Japanese with baseball, because they love baseball, which I think is really random, but there must be a history to that. But yeah, so... Yeah, why not? I don't know why that's a bit of a tangent, but yeah, I feel like trail running should be in the Olympics.
Yeah, I look forward to us talking about it on the podcast in 4 years' time.
Stuart, what have you got coming up next?
I'm going to do a bit of race supporting this week. Also, the natural thing to do after doing a really long marathon is to just try and go for a 5k PB.
Yeah.
I feel like I'll just recover for a couple of weeks after that, straight into a hard 5k, see what happens. I might do a 10k. I feel like I've got a bit more time to take off my 10k this year, so I might do Swansea, but I haven't really made up my mind. I feel like that feels to me like I'm not really that bothered, so probably not. I don't know. I'll figure it out. How about you?
Not much. I'm tail walking the Rhythm. I don't know whether we're going to have a podcast before that happens. It's like in 3 weeks' time, maybe.
I don't know
maybe
anymore. I can't remember.
I don't
schedule
know.
wrong.
Yeah, but I'm tail walking the Rhythm, which would be nice. I don't want to do the whole thing. I'll probably hop on a train at some point and go home. But yeah, that should be quite good training, like ultra training, walking, because that's the thing during the summer when I'm working from home. I just don't walk. I don't walk anywhere. So yeah, I'm quite looking forward to doing some walking. Okay.
I didn't think there was much to go in this podcast. It was just me whinging on about my marathon, so
pretty much was.
Managed to fill the time quite nicely.
Yeah. If you've enjoyed this bullshit, please visit runningsbs.com to see the show notes and links from this episode and the whole back catalogue, as well as links to our Patreon, merch store, and social medias.
Au revoir.
Au revoir. Gives a whole new meaning to fartlek, doesn't it?